Throwing you off, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. Ladies and gents, I'm so sorry. We had a bit of a problem, or I had a bit of a problem with my boomer tech stuff. So hopefully now it'll be okay. And Limbo is going to carry on telling us what he was telling us before. Sorry, gents, it was all my fault.
No, that's all right, you. What I was talking about earlier was the independent leaked papers on the minister's plan to sweep massive changes into the local government system, part of the Tory levelling up agenda.
Yeah,
And
it's Michael Gove, isn't it? Limbo?
yeah, go. Yes, unfortunately my MP, one of my MPs. Yeah, and it's apparently either scrapping or merging England's 181 district councils and 24 county councils. If I want to get onto my main bit, what I summarized earlier was that this I've said this before multiple times in the community. This so-called pro-Tory agenda of leveling up localism is not leveling up localism. Rather, it's just this metropolitan elitist power grab, and it's just a step forward for progressive politics. What this does is scrap local politics, and it scraps what is left for the heart of family politics, and it will, in essence, make the identity of your local community disappear. Without without a sense of your community or a pre-enlightenment liberty, that liberty being the collective in order to an individual to feel content in the wider society, he needs a group of people that he feels he's a part of and share that sense of normality. The collective of the people have that liberty if they're able to share their customs. And I feel that unfortunately, due to this liberty,
Oh,
seems he's been dragged away.
I apologize. No, someone came into my dormitory. I apologize for that. But no, the point being that if you don't have a sense of identity in the local community and there's none of that, localism in your politics, there's that is a massive danger, and that is a step forward into politics. If you don't have that identity, it's more easier to. I've mentioned this in my multiculturalism video. If you don't have that identity already in place, it's much more easier to replace that with ideological nemesis, and that nemesis is progressive politics. And for example, that could be mass immigration easily because you have no identity in the community, and it will just be a cesspool of mass immigration, of course. So.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to argue with you there, Limbo.
I'm not actually sure though. What are the specific changes that are being made there that are going to be destroying local politics?
Well, hang on. Adam and I knows council in Kent that was not going to build over the Greenbelt, and Gove just said, "Yeah, we are going to." Fuck your local council. Is that all right, Alan?
yeah. There was a pretty big local campaign to get a new construction shut down, and he kind of because I think he's now he's just been given the position of in the last reshuffle of I forget exactly what it is. Is it building czar or housing minister or something like that?
Building czar. So British. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, Rupert August, I think that was the deal that Limbu was talking about, and I think he was pretty much spot on in the way he was talking about it, to be honest.
I think it goes a bit further than that, though, doesn't it? I mean, sure, Limbu could tell us more, but
it seems to me that I haven't read a lot about it. I've read a bit, but from what I can see, it kind of makes the British government able to overrule everything below them.
Hmm.
which obviously is neither democratic, if you believe in democracy, which I don't, or good, because the British government has not been for a very long time at all in favour of the British people, as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
Well, in principle, they could do that anyway, so that's why I'm a bit curious as to what the actual change is that's being carried out. I mean, our constitution basically goes as far as
Rupert August. As far as I know, like if a town council and then a county council, and there was another group above that, as far as I'm aware, if they all decided, nah, we're not going to build on our green belt, there was no way that the Westminster Parliament could come in and say, yeah, we are.
I think they have always had that power. They just don't. They don't usually exercise it.
never used it because that would expose them to being what they really are.
Right, but I think what we need to establish here is what new powers exactly they've got now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the new powers is that all the local assemblies are going to be united into this unitary assembly where all the powers are going to be divided up to the main county legislature rather than the local council where it's more reasonable enough. So
Yeah, but if you make a, say, English council, that's going to be much less democratic than if you have a Kent and West Sussex and East Sussex and Hampshire and Cornwall and Blur council, isn't it? I mean, like,
yes.
Obviously, to anyone with any common sense.
Well, it depends. I mean, is it actually wholesale replacing it, or is it overlaying? I mean, both of those are kind of bad, but for different reasons.
I just look, mate, Adam, and you know far more about this stuff than I do, and to me, it's deeply suspicious. But
well, yeah, but it depends. I mean, how it's going to be structured is how you're gonna is going to depend on. It's going to tell you how you should be countering it or fighting it or whatever it is you're doing. If it's a large council that's going to completely evaporate away smaller councils and replace them, that's kind of a direct sort of centralization that is going to be drastically different to combat than, let's say, just a new council that now has sort of the same sort of superficial power over local councils that the current government does.
See, I look, on the one hand, I think that the current government has huge powers over local councils. I think it does, but generally speaking, it doesn't use them because that would kind of expose the current government to what they really are, which they didn't want to do. But, like, I can't think that a Kent County Council or a West Sussex County Council or an East Sussex County Council or a Hampshire County Council or a Devon County Council or a Cornwall County Council would not be more democratic and more local than anything that scumbag Michael Gove is suggesting at the moment. Am I wrong? I don't think I am.
No, I think we need more specifics though.
But part of the consideration as well is that whenever a new body is created, that gives some amount of power to the group that created it.
Yeah.
And so I know there's not really that much love for the Tories here, and quite rightly. But the fact that they're doing it instead of Labour doing it is itself probably going to be at least a slight boon, because that's some of the problem with the constitutional changes that were made by the New Labour in particular, was that because they were making bodies like the Supreme Court they ended up being stacked in New Labour's favour, and we're still having to deal with the consequences of that because of those legacy candidates.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Rupert, you got subject you wanted to bring up particularly?
Well, yeah, you asked about a sort of retrospective of this year in some sense, and a look forward as to what that might mean for the future. And the thing that came to mind,
we will get on to that, but yeah, if you have a particular thing, go for it.
well, I do potentially have another separate one as well. So whichever you'd like to go for.
Go, mate.
Well, something worthy of consideration. It's come up very slightly in the past, almost in passing, really. But I think there's probably something to be said for the idea of the aggressive liberal versus the soft reactionary or conservative, you might say, in regards to the specific archetypes of someone like a Cromwell or a Napoleon versus Louis XIV or Charles I, respectively, whichever way around it is. But the point being that there's some love for people like these aggressive leaders on the right, and I think in some sense there's some merit to that, especially in an aesthetic sense. But it's also important to look at what the principles that they're pushing are as well. So it's not necessarily good enough to have a militaristic, aesthetically correct leader in the form of someone like Napoleon, but have him be aggressively pushing and aggressively entrenching liberal ideas, but still support him from the right anyway because he's doing so in a way that you like.
No, that's agreeable.
Sorry, go on.
No, that's agreeable. No, I mean, as someone from the youth online political sphere, I've seen too much of this, like too much of these aesthetics type of aggressive leadership type of politician edits. Yet there's no real good substance to the actual political dilemma for the right, for what they're pushing for. And no, I just agree with you on that. We need to push for good ideas rather than this aesthetic type of politics.
I just wish the right were pushing for anything, but I mean,
Well, I mean, I kind of think that I think I mean, I was literally just talking to someone about this earlier. You get this issue where, I mean, people like to talk about the friend-enemy distinction on the right a lot nowadays.
Yeah, some people do.
And I think they see the way that some of their opposition will literally go to town over any issue, anything you deign to take as a stance, they will take the opposite of, no matter how ludicrous it makes them. I think a lot of people on the right they get into this cycle where they really wish that we were capable of that, and I think a lot of people kind of miss that takes quite a lot of institutional power behind you to even make holding such ridiculous positions possible. If you're the outer group, you have to be a bit more clever, a bit more sly about what hills you choose to die on.
Yeah, I mean, like the Overton window at the moment is so anti-right, it's unbelievable. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think that's what Asman was basically saying there, and yeah, absolutely. Okay, Adam, you got anything you wanted to bring up as a particular thing to talk about on this stream?
I did think about bringing up this article I read earlier today about grooming gangs, but I don't really want to blackpill everyone, so I might pass.
No, go for it, mate. Please,
I don't know. It's pretty bleak. I mean, it's no more bleak than what we already know, but
well, let's tell ourselves the truth, and then people can maybe make their positions more accurate.
Yeah, all right. So I looked through this article today. I'll pop it in chat. People can look at it. Written by some bird, but don't let that put you off. And she kind of goes over the documentary Free Girls. well, the mini-series on the BBC, which radicalised that a certain Welsh van driver, but it did kind of make me wonder, because she kind of really dials down. She brings up like the racial aspect, but she really dials down a lot on the class aspect. There's a few, like there's a particular entry here. I'll read it. It says, the white underclass of Britain occupies a liminal space in British politics, at once a backward lumpenproll shrinking voting bloc and a useful testing ground for radical political manoeuvres. And she goes on to talk about how she kind of rightfully throws the Tories under the bus, and says that they sort of pretend this idea of like a white working class is largely gone. That they talk about sort of things like, what does she say specifically, the Northern Powerhouse and levelling up, and that this idea that the deprived communities they're sort of a thing of the past. I agree with her on that. I kind of think that the class thing is still kind of largely overstated. I think that we haven't really had much of a class system in the UK for about 60 or 70 years. And I think the delineation between what we've seen in places like Rotherham and Hull and these sort of vulnerable communities where this would happen to these young girls is kind of something else entirely. There's sort of, there are lots of communities that are as poor as those white working class communities, but they don't get targeted in the same way. So the fact that you could sort of delineate this down working class is kind of, to me, seems a little inaccurate. I'm not sure how other people feel on the idea of class delineations.
You can't. I don't know. I mean, as an Englishman, seeing these young girls from white working class communities being absolutely targeted by Muslim Islamic rape gangs really fucking pisses me off. But if I said that like fully on YouTube, I'd get my channel banned.
But can you actually call them working class? 'Cause here's another example, right? Like there was that Tory MP who I think is quite a decent bloke. I can't remember his name. A bit on the young side. He was talking a lot about how like white working class boys have been left behind in the education system.
Which they have, yes, for sure.
Yeah, but it goes even further than that though, because if you break down the groups based on gender, social background, and race, white people generally across the school system have been left behind. Like, amongst the girls, white girls do the worst.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't break it down perfectly by socioeconomic background. Yeah, Mitch just said Ben Bradley, that's the guy. They don't break it down perfectly by social background. They use free school meals. But like where you assess kids that receive free school meals, the kind of white boys and white girls are kind of bottom of the pile for their respective genders. And the same for kids that don't receive free school meals.
What a surprise.
So I'm not really sure if you can even delineate it as a class issue anymore, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I think it is, because like the guys who are on the raw end of this are white working class British people, aren't they? I mean, it's difficult to say they're not.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've known West Indian heritage blokes in the army, etc. And I'm not by any means a white nationalist, but it's really difficult to see today, looking at the educational system in Britain, that white people generally are on the poor end of it, and particularly straight white men are on the absolute bullshit stick of it. I mean, am I lying? I don't think I am.
Well, I think when you say I'm not a white nationalist, I think that's a bit of a cope.
I'm not a white nationalist.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that the way people say that and the way they throw that around, they kind of imply that there is.
All right, I'm a British nationalist, absolutely. I'm a British and Old Commonwealth nationalist, absolutely. But I'm not a white nationalist.
But isn't that
because-
actually to the right of being a white nationalist anyway? Because your
Mm,
delineation is even stricter than that of a white nationalist. You don't think Britain should be for the Poles.
No, absolutely not. I don't.
Well, there you
But
go.
yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But like I'm an Anglo-Celtic nationalist. Put it that way.
Hmm.
I'm an Anglo-Celtic nationalist. The guys when the bloody Vikings tried to invade us, we chopped their heads off and put them outside our lodges.
Yeah, no more brother wars, guys.
Yeah, that was a brother war, but we won, so all right, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I'm that kind of nationalist. I'm not particularly a white nationalist. I'm an Anglo-Celtic nationalist.
Anyway, there's someone here you haven't introduced us to yet.
Who's that?
Bottom left.
Oh God Almighty! Yes, I have. That's Napoleon shit kicker, I guarantee you.
Oh, he's
Hello.
Hello, Napoleon
How are you all
shit kicker.
tonight?
Yeah, we're all good. Mate.
How are you guys?
yeah.
Doing
well,
right.
Can you guys hear me? Do I need
Yeah.
to,
No,
do I need to go closer?
we're just.
Do I need to get
ignoring
louder?
No.
you. No, we can hear you. But did you have a first subject to bring up?
No, I just this happens every time. I just come on here and then we go around in a circle and then I'm usually in the end of that circle.
And yet
Yeah.
somehow I always put up with you. It's amazing, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Adamant, did you have a particular subject to bring up this evening?
No, that was mine. I'm done.
Good. Rupert August, did you have a particular subject to bring up this evening? This is our last official stream of this year, by the way, because we're going to do one next week. It's going to be our Christmas festive stream, and unless something extraordinary happens, it is not going to be about current events. So we'll see.
Yeah, we're all having a toast to our long lost friend Brutus.
Yeah.
Where Duke is bringing back the drunk posting of old that we haven't seen in such a long time.
No, you're right. Next week is going to be favorite carol or hymn, favorite poem, and a plus thing from the last year or so, which I think no one's going to come up with anything. Plus, I'm thinking something along the lines of favorite authors and that sort of stuff. That's what next week's stream is going to be about. It isn't going to be current affairs. So, Rupert August, did you have something to bring up this week?
I do have another point, but my main one that we've already quickly touched on was just the point about Cromwell and spirited leadership versus sort of having the correct ideas. So I mean, we could talk about that a little bit more if you like, but other than that, it's more of a current affairs retrospective and prediction point.
All right. Well, we might do a bit of that next week, but you can do it this week if you want to.
Certainly. Well, if there's nothing else to move on to, then we might as well. Mainly, just the trend in the Anglosphere towards trying to confront the rising powers, particularly in the case of China, but also to a slightly lesser extent Russia, because obviously we had the rather swift disentangling from Afghanistan, which was a little bit farcical, but I've heard the argument, which I find quite compelling, that it was for the purpose of trying to redeploy resources towards China, basically, to try to make sure that China was not going to be too much of an issue that would sort of come out of nowhere. And now we're sort of seeing both China and Russia seemingly cooperating, perhaps in the sort of in the background towards trying to entangle the US in particular, but by extension the wider Anglosphere, because Australia and the UK particularly have been trying to head off the Chinese threat as well in cooperation with America, with sea patrols and whatever, and troop deployments and all that kind of thing. And so what it kind of seems like is, we are heading towards maybe not next year, maybe not the year after, but at some point some kind of more serious armed confrontation with these rising powers.
I guess that's a point of view. Yeah, okay, guys. What do you think about that?
I think that was reasonable. We touched on it before on the government's plans, their military plans. They did this thing a few months back where they just talked about the military budget going into a new technological age against China, Russia, and how.
Well, that's actually been coming to fruition now. So we've got a lot more.
It is
upgrades of military vehicles coming through.
Man, it is. It's coming to so much military fruition. It's unbelievable. There ain't no British soldiers behind it. And there's a very few British warships behind it. But in every other respect, it's coming to fruition.
Yeah, but, go on, Naboo.
Listen, guys, my son's serving in the Royal Navy, and I have no dog in this fight, except my son is serving in the Royal Navy. And let me tell you this, all right? Britain, in alliance with America, Japan, and Australia, might just about win a naval and air war in the South China Sea. Just about. But if we do, we're going to lose thousands of men. Now, I think if my son was not in the Royal Navy Fleet Air Arm, I would absolutely defend Taiwan, because I don't like China much, and I think everything about China is bad. But Britain is not spending enough on our Navy, and our Navy is not anywhere near as powerful as she should be. And that's down to Boris Johnson and the so-called Conservative Party. So that's kind of my view on this stuff.
Yeah, but
you guys carry on.
I don't really. I'm not sure I really care about whether the government's actually cut money to the military or not, because ultimately, I don't think I really like the idea of people dying for what Britain is now. Anyway, I mean, it's kind of dead pretty much.
No, I hate Britain. I hate British people dying for Britain as it is now. But without an armed forces, we'll fall even quicker than we are now. The British Armed Forces was kind of like the last bastion of real Brits until very recently, when the so-called Conservative Party have destroyed them.
Yeah, I mean, they've destroyed basically everything. So,
I mean, to give the devil his due, with the amount of expenses that have been sort of piled on from previous governments, obviously they still have choices to make going forwards, and they've not made good choices, but each new obligation that is sort of set up, which is politically impossible to roll back, is making for less money for the things that they would otherwise be spending their money on, that are perhaps more core to what the state should be doing, like defense. The moment that the NHS became the titan of domestic politics and finance that it has, it's something that has constrained every other job that the government should be having. and
Well,
we've been piling up more and more of those.
something like 2/3 of British tax money goes on the NHS. My God, imagine that. But it's true.
That doesn't
Sad,
sound
but
right.
true.
It's a lot, but I don't know if it's 2/3.
No, it's not.
It's getting on for 2/3. It is getting on for
right.
2/3. It's vastly the biggest amount of money
Yeah.
that the British government spends, and way above anything else, and it dwarfs defence, for example.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had this argument with some Yankoids on Twitter, and they were doing their typical sort of spurg out where they were talking about how if we just had good tax and we cut back on the army, that like America would be this great utopia that they always claim. And I just pointed out that their actual deficit on tax spending is 4 times what they spend on their national budget, on their defense budget, and their defense budget's enormous.
Yeah, but our like deficit budget is enormous too, isn't it?
Yeah.
And unlike America, for example, the next British Prime Minister is liable to be Rishi Sunak or Europe.
Doubtful.
Well, I hope not, but I mean, if he is, I don't know anyone else in the Conservative Party who is like higher profile than that particular Indian man. And to me, if he becomes Prime Minister, I'm just going to give up on Britain totally. I think.
Well, I mean, they didn't think. I mean, internally in the party, they thought that Sajid Javid wouldn't be able to win because he's not white, and that is still a majority of the voting base. So,
and he's
a
a
vast
Muslim,
majority.
but he's also a Muslim, isn't he?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, people always talk about like the vote becoming racialized in America, and a lot of people don't realize the vote's actually really racialized here, like right now.
Yeah. Yep.
It's I think in the last general election, Labour only had like 1 in every 5 only 1 in every 5 white people voted for Labour, and it was like 3 in 5 voted for the Tories, and so on. So it's getting really racialized here, but it's kind of under the surface, implicit. It's a case of what is it he says? Revealed preferences.
Oh yeah.
And I think that would probably mean Sunak wouldn't become prime minister for quite a while.
One would hope so. I would always say when faced with this question, like, what chance would an English guy have of becoming Prime Minister of India? Like, I reckon it would be less than 0.
Yeah, probably.
Well, it depends whether the rest of the civil service, I guess, and the actual party machinery and everything, the institutions, basically, if they line up behind that outcome, then yeah, it probably would happen, and that's exactly how it's ended up happening here. It's not because there's some kind of like popular clamoring.
Hang on, Rupert August. You are suggesting to me that an Englishman, even if he was born in India, could somehow become Prime Minister of India? Because I don't think that's a realistic thing at all.
Yes, if the parties make it happen, and the businesses and the back end institutions actually make it happen, and all the media gets behind it, then yes, I think it would happen.
Don't believe you for yeah, like zero.
What's the probability of that?
Yeah,
I think that's what he's trying to get at.
Like 0 probability, if you ask me. 0 probability.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. This is the point: is that if you ask somebody from 70 or 80 years ago, would that happen here? The answer would probably be no. And yet here we are with all of our anti-national, anti-native institutions.
All of which I'll agree, Rupert August, but like, you're now talking about modern India, and an Englishman, even if he was born in India, would have absolutely zero chance of becoming Prime Minister of India now. And if
So is
you don't realize that, then you're not being very realistic.
So is it an inextricably European trait to have anti-national institutions?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm,
Absolutely, 100%. No one else does. China doesn't have them.
well, very
Oh,
few people do, but it does. It
Yeah.
does.
It's a Western thing.
I think, funnily enough, I actually think you'd have more chance of getting an Englishman as Prime Minister of India now than you would have done back in the day.
Yeah, I don't even think that's true. But I do think it's a Western thing. And the idea that you could have an Indian as Prime Minister of Britain or Ireland or France, Germany, whatever, yeah, all of those are possible, but they would not be possible in India or Persia or China or any of those other countries, because all of those other countries are more realistic than we are. In my own
I don't think that's
opinion.
baked into us, though, is the thing. I think that's something that is particular to our sort of
All right,
time and place.
all right. We have to address this, I suppose.
No, I think
Brian Borrow is saying a Jewish Englishman. Look, I don't think that's the big issue, because like Alexander Johnson isn't Jewish.
Well, I mean, let's
all right,
not go down that rabbit hole.
All right, Alan, you might be right. You might be right. Churchill, was he Jewish?
no, he was a Freemason.
Yeah.
But he did take a lot of money off Jewish people. Let me think who else I did really detest about
Tony Blair.
British. Tony
Australia.
Blair.
Australia was obviously Jewish.
Tony Blair, was he Jewish?
Yeah, we can hear you, Limbo.
I think Tony Blair pretended he was Catholic. Let me think of other people I really detest. Somebody like
Roosevelt.
I do detest him, but I'm thinking of British people here.
Right.
Somebody like Ramsay MacDonald, was he Jewish? I don't think he was.
No, he was not.
No, I didn't think so either. He was a socialist bastard, but he wasn't Jewish.
Well, he Ramsay MacDonald is a very strange case, because I'm pretty sure he was quite not racist, you'd say, but he was pretty opposed to immigration, which I think is kind of a plus. I don't know much about him, but I know that he
was a socialist nationalist government guy, wasn't he?
Uh,
Oh,
I would say I wouldn't put those two words together.
Here we go, guys. I want comments on this. Jonathan Bowden
That
was
cuts deep.
Jewish. Go on, guys. Your comments on this are welcome, because I will just say, Joe Boo, you wanker, for even saying that. But anyone else can say what they like.
That cuts deep.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It really hurts me. The layers that
The thing is, where you're
might
running
have.
through leaders and you're saying, is this person Jewish? Is that person Jewish? I mean, okay, so let me ask you a binary question.
Go on.
Does Rupert Murdoch have less power than, let's say, David Cameron? Now.
Now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. No, I think Rupert Murdoch probably has more power than David Cameron now.
Right. So does Rupert Murdoch have more power than Keir Starmer? I mean, it isn't a cut and dry.
Maybe. Look, I've said for ages, Adman, that my view on the JQ is there is some truth in it, but it's not the total truth.
Sure.
If those guys who turn around and say to you everything is about that,
Yeah, they can find a Jew in a ham sandwich if they look hard enough. Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of morons. but people who turn around and say, yeah, there's some truth to it. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that for a minute, because there is. But you have to stop at some point and say, like, most of the people who are fucking us over are our own people. They're not even black or brown, let alone Jewish. They're our own guys for their own reasons. Hang on, there's the boot coming back. There you go. That's my honest view. Like, yeah, is there some truth to the JQ? Yes, there is. Is it the total truth of the whole entire world? Not unless you're an idiot. But that's my view. I'm not pretending for 1 second that I'm correct and everyone else is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they must have some power, because they've made me completely lose what we were talking about before this.
I thought that was me, but yeah, I don't know. I like I said, is there some truth to the JQ? Yeah, there is. Particularly in terms of like the mainstream media or movies and stuff like that. Particularly in the case of America, absolutely there is. You'd have to be a moron to look at that stuff and not see that that was the case. I think it's much less strong in the UK. And I think our problem is really our own elites who detest our own people.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of evidence to show that that like the influx of sort of outsiders sort of pushes those insiders to sort of have an outgroup preference in a way that they probably wouldn't if they were just left to their own devices.
I don't know. I mean, you got a lot of people like what's his name in the First World War? I'm trying to remember his name now. The guy who allied Britain to his traditional enemies, France and Russia, before 1914, then was very happy to see Britain joining the First World War, and then raise a mass army against all British tradition, and everything in Britain and the old empire was destroyed by that war. And from being the richest nation in the world by a fairly long way in 1913, Britain became a debtor nation in 1919. I don't know. To me, and that is like, how can I describe it? Those people were anti-British, in my view. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure it was all about Jewish people. Were there anti-British Jewish people? Yeah, I'm sure they were. And listen, I'm more anti-Jewish than some people, because my father, because he was in the army in the early 1950s, used to tell me about Haganah hanging British sergeants who they captured in Palestine in 1951, 1952. And blowing up the King David Hotel and killing loads of women and kids. So I'm by no means a pro-Jewish guy at all.
MI5 believed it was or was it MI6? Can't remember. One of the intelligence services believed that was a Labour MP.
Would have been MI6, yeah.
Also,
Called
the
Emmanuel
old
Shinwell.
false religion.
Emmanuel Shinwell sounds exactly right. And of course, there were quite a few British, how can we describe them? People in academia in the Second World War who were absolutely out and out Soviet agents. Never caught up to the 70s or 1980s even. But there absolutely were. Cardamom in the chat says the Stone Gang. Absolutely right. These people captured British NCOs and hung them in public, pretty much the same way that the Islamic State used to do with things. So if anyone thinks I'm in some way or another an Israeli fan, I'm not. Trust me.
Well, I mean, we're going to need to do that to our enemies at some point.
Oh yeah, listen, maybe, but I would be against hanging uniformed soldiers who you captured always. I'm not against chopping off the ear of a bloke you've already killed, but like if the bloke's alive, I'd kind of like us to stick to the Geneva Convention, to be honest.
Geneva.
I actually would like us to stick to the Geneva Convention if we could, but you know. So I don't like those Jewish guys who do that shit at all.
Yes. Also, we have to remind ourselves that Judaism is a false religion, but I won't go there today.
Yeah, completely heretical.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. I'm an agnostic, guys. So, but I did have my son baptized in the Church of England Church, and I got married in the Church of England Church. But other than that, that's as far as I go with religion.
The two threats I see is Freemasonry and Judaism, but yeah.
All right then.
Yeah.
I feel like I finally have a topic, which is kind of relevant to what we were talking about.
Okay.
And I was arguing about it in Aussie server. I don't know if you remember, Duke, what the argument was about.
No.
So many people, as I was actually being piled on by so many people, and it was feral. It was about some bloke during the Falkland Wars was basically chopping people's ears off. And
only guys he'd killed
were dead, were corpses.
No, only guys he had killed.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that wouldn't really make a difference, guys.
And they were already dead.
That already dead is like a tautological statement. You don't have to repeat it again. And then he got his, I think it was his medal rejected for it. No, I wasn't really.
He was going to get.
Part. It's just that.
Hang on. He was going to get a gallantry medal, but then they found out he had this necklace of ears. He was a member of the parachute regiment, and therefore they cancelled his medal. And to my way of thinking, they were entirely wrong, because his necklace of ears was only one ear from every Argentinian he had killed. What was bad about that?
Okay, and my position was I was fucked. That sounds so wrong. And I explained why it was wrong.
Why?
I got shat on.
I just don't understand what you don't get it.
Not do. Okay, one thing that you generally shouldn't do during war because it's incredibly disrespectful, especially to a soldier who's just died.
Disrespectful.
Desecrate their corpse.
In war. Okay.
Desecrating a soldier's corpse. That's just not moral at all.
I don't know. I mean, I might have Tony Blair feet earrings after the revolution comes.
Yeah, me too. I totally agree. Well done.
No, I get what you mean though. It is a little bit.
But it's not.
If
it's
someone
not.
is killed fighting,
Oh man.
Right. Let me just give you what probably happened. There was an Argentine conscript who was either fighting for his pay.
They weren't all conscripts. Many of them were Marines.
Okay, maybe he wasn't a conscript. Thank you for that interjection. Maybe he was fighting for money. Maybe he was fighting because he was forced. Maybe, or maybe because he's fighting for his country. Now, let's say he got shot. Right? right?
All
Just let me finish.
enemies.
And he
all enemies.
Okay,
Well,
Jake, right. Okay.
uh,
Now let's say someone from the parachute regiment zapped him right between the eyes. He no longer poses a threat. He's paid with his life.
So chop his ear
He
off.
shouldn't have to face his corpse. Shouldn't have like. Oh my god! Why am I around like second person? He hasn't done. He shouldn't deserve anything past that point. He was killed in the line of
Bollocks.
duty, you could say. And if you cut his ears off, that's desecrating a corpse. A corpse.
It's only one ear. It's only one ear. It's one ear as a souvenir.
That makes a massive difference. His family's going to get his body back, and they're going to be like, "Oh, his ear's missing." Like, yeah, but it's only one. Don't worry about it.
They
Like-
can't. Okay, but they'll do. If when they get his body back, which might be in a really bad state, given like modern war, they won't even notice the one ear's missing, and the guy's only taken one ear, and he was already dead, so he cares.
Like, do you think when they're gonna get the body back, they're gonna forgive the fact that someone's chopped their ears and is honking around Falklands with it on his neck? They're not.
I think they.
enough.
Well, are they going to then try a second invasion? Good luck if they do.
No, okay, Duke. I can't believe I'm saying this. War crimes.
That's not a
committed
war
in
crime.
past wars.
This is
Okay,
not a war
I am
crime.
99%. Okay, maybe it wasn't a war crime, but I'm pretty sure it's against some kind
Not
of
a
code.
war
Maybe not
crime,
a legal
man.
code, but definitely a moral code or some kind of code that's been established.
Mate, I would have chopped his head off.
But
I would have chopped his
That
head
is-
off and stuck it on a pile.
That
You
makes
were
you a
literally
savage.
just talking
okay,
about
and that is
respecting the Geneva
fucked.
Convention.
That is fucked. Exactly. That is so uncivilized. We're trying to approach
But
an age
I'm
where we don't have
completely
to resolve
uncivilized. I'm British.
I think the
No, that's the
mutilation
opposite.
of
No, It's very
mutilation of
anti-British
corpses
because
counts as a war crime. Yeah, the mutilation of
The-
dead bodies during armed conflict, according to customary international law, is a crime.
Yeah, but if you chop the left ear off a bloke you've already shot and he's dead, who the fuck gives a shit?
Now, like, just so we're
Oh,
clear, I'm
Duke,
fine
I've
with
just
war
explained-
crimes, but I'm just surprised that you've switched on a dime like this, Duke.
no, not the year. You stop at the year.
Someone's got to clip this.
Yeah, so,
Go for it, because like I just think it was ridiculous.
the
I think this
okay.
shows Duke's natural Anglo-Celtic roots. Good thing? Question mark.
Yeah, we used to take heads and stick them outside our houses. We
And
did.
we used to take our legs off because we had a slight cough. Maybe that's an exaggeration. but
No,
that's-
no,
shouldn't
we
use
never did
so
that.
long
I
ago as a
don't.
proxy for what's
No.
acceptable today.
No.
I was joking, Duke. I was joking. I was just making a very
Okay,
hyperbolic statement about the
okay.
incompetency of medicine back then. But what I'm saying is that we're trying to evolve into an age of sensibility where we don't have to
No,
necessarily.
you
mutilate
are because you're a
corpses.
leftist. You're a leftist. I'm not a leftist.
I'm not a leftist. No, Duke.
Yes,
Duke,
you are.
I'm not a
Yes, you
leftist.
are.
Okay,
You are
That's
I
this is
have
your-
to
this
use
is your
about
test of how
level,
right wing
but
you are.
that's
Are you
just-
willing to cut off an ear?
No. No. I have to explain this because, right, Duke, okay, I understand why you think that, but the only reason I have those roles in Aussie server is because I want to throw people off because it's funny. I just have things like, I have American, Irish on there, I have multiculturalism. I've been doing these things
Yep.
with you for like the past couple of months. If you know anything
All
about me, I
fine,
am none
all
of those
fine.
things.
Did you throw me out?
But what?
Did you throw me out of
When?
the Discord? I don't know because I
Oh no,
haven't got the
right,
Discord
okay.
anymore.
That has nothing to do with me, okay?
Oh.
All right, guys. What I'm
Some
trying to
reason
say
fuck.
to you here is that all of this stuff that floor sniffer stroke Napoleon shit kicker is coming out with is left wing bollocks. I'm sorry, it just is. It's just left wing bollocks. I don't do war according to what the left says. I do war according to real war, which is like if the guy is dead and he's your enemy and you chop his ear off after he's dead, if you do it before he's dead, that's different. If you do it when he's dead, I don't give a shit. It's just a trophy. And like, as some of us have already said, like, we come from people who had the enemy's heads hanging outside our house, which I think was pretty base.
I completely understand that, and I completely understand why you say that. I probably wouldn't really care if that happened in a war like around this age, but the reason why I have such an issue with it is because this happened like a long time ago, but like if you're chopping a guy's ears off and keeping it around your neck, that seems a bit it seems a bit sadistic and trying to like
why?
It's a bit
the guy's already,
and if you try and explain
how is
that,
it sadistic if the guy's already dead?
Duke, if you try and explain things like that to any government of any nation, they're going to
mean any civilian,
civilized and barbaric, and that's the exact kind of thing that fuels
you mean any civilian
tension and causes more wars. Maybe there's a moral reason and then there's the responsibility reason.
How is what you are saying not liberal?
Okay, maybe it isn't, but that's just completely...
Honestly, how is what you are saying not totally liberal?
Hang on, Duke, are you back-pilled?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Duke, I have positions that everywhere. I have positions that on the far right, on the far left, up, down, everywhere. It doesn't really matter if they're liberal or not. What matters
No. Everything you are saying is... I'm sorry. Everything you are saying is totally liberal and left-wing.
Okay, that's completely fine. That's completely fine. I am completely okay with that prescription, even though I think
this is not a liberal. This is not a liberal or left-wing channel. So what are you doing here?
Duke,
being right-wing is when you brutalise the dead. Just to get this out there.
I'll move on to this in a minute, guys. I will move on to this in a minute, but this is your last chance, floor sniffer stroke Napoleon chick here. Explain to me why everything you have not been talking about for the last 15 minutes is not totally left-wing and global homo liberal.
Because being a right wing is about respecting your enemies. Sorry, I don't mean to jump in, but
okay. Duke, how is it right wing? Oh no. Okay, let me just try and process this because I completely understand what you're saying.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't understand what I'm saying at all.
But how is it? Okay. How is it not right wing to say that you shouldn't chop an ear off of a corpse, or how is it left wing, or how is it even political to say that? How is this even political to say that you shouldn't chop an ear off of a corpse?
Why do you think it's wrong?
Right, okay, I already explained why it's wrong. You asked me how it's not.
Why do you think it's wrong?
I really understand why you're asking me.
Why do you think it's wrong?
Right, okay. So
this is chopping it off a dead person. A dead person, not someone who's already alive.
Saying that out loud, chopping an ear off of a dead person, like they're already dead.
I know.
There's no justification for taking it off.
I knew guys who did that and never got done for it. But all right, you carry on.
Never got done for it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because it's not that large of an issue. But
no, it isn't. Not at all. It's a bullshit issue.
It's still
explain to me how it's not left-wing and liberal.
I've already okay.
You haven't made the slightest. You haven't made the slightest attempt to explain to me why that's not left-wing and liberal. The bloke's already dead.
Okay, well, let me
chop
try
a bit of his ear off. Who cares?
Okay, Duke. Let me try again. Okay, right. Okay, how is how is it political to say that you shouldn't chop an ear off of a corpse that you've just killed?
Apologies for that.
Yeah, no, it is. Listen, I grant you it's political, but I am asking you again, explain to
It's
me
not
why
political,
it's
though.
bad. Why it's bad
Do-
when the bloke's already dead. Listen, if you chop the ear off a bloke who's already alive, I totally get you. But if he's dead, why does anyone care?
I think more on a
Okay, maybe their family
retrospective
would
note.
care. Maybe the
Uh,
nation would care, and then they would put it on the television as showing them of the British brutality and imperialism, blah blah blah, all this bollocks. That fuels
So
international
all of
tension,
that is
and then more
left-wing
wars come out
bollocks.
as a result.
All of the
Well, no,
last
because
stuff.
that is what happens. Stuff like that gets onto the news, people see it, and more tensions rise. Do you understand what I'm
And
saying?
all of that stuff you just said is left-wing bollocks.
Lads, this isn't the
It's-
hill to die on. Let me be brutally honest.
No, I'm not suggesting
No,
we are not going to die on this hill. But we are not going to die on this hill.
I literally just got a message from someone actually. They just said, "Is this the hill Duke is going to die on?"
No, I'm not going to die. No, I'm not going to die on this hill. But honestly,
Look,
chopping the ear off some of your enemy who's already dead is kind of really traditional.
Okay, well,
And-
why does it
and-
make any
and-
difference whether
and the-
they're
and-
alive
and
or
the-
dead?
hang on,
Because if it's
hang
just
on.
if it's a matter of getting just dominance over your enemy, then it shouldn't matter. Like if you incapacitated them, they're
Alright.
yours, and you can torture them to death if you like. If that's the trad position.
No. Hang on, Rupert August. I am not suggesting for 1 second that you chop the ear off your live enemy. Okay,
What's the distinction?
Torture. That would be torture.
Okay,
I
why is
am
torture-
saying.
why is torture wrong?
Well, I'm not even against that particularly, but I mean, that's not my point. What I'm trying to say is, like, if you chop the ear off your dead enemy, that's just a trophy. And I don't care.
Is that just
because
because
you-
they don't feel it that it's not an issue
Okay.
then?
I
Yeah.
literally made
Yeah,
this
yeah,
it's just
they
about-
don't
near
feel
an
it.
argument.
They don't
So it's
feel
just
it.
about
Saying
property
that
and
it's trophy
inflicting
hunting
pain,
is
or
not an automatic justification. Saying that it's trophy hunting, I said this to Big Dave so many fucking times, and he didn't get it. Saying that it's trophy hunting does not mean that it's an automatic justification for chopping a bloke's ear off. That, like, saying, yeah, that's basically it. So I really don't understand where that's coming from.
We're altogether too soft.
No, it's not about being too soft. It's being responsible and being civilized.
No, responsible to who and civilized to who? Are you
Okay.
talking about? Are you
To-
talking about the United Nations?
Is this going to be our new rite of
To-
passage for the stream? You have to chop 3 ears off.
No, okay, let me try and explain it this way. To be a tough soldier, to be a tough person, is to march, fight, basically for months or years without seeing your family or any girls at all. Being a sadistic and emotionally charged lunatic is to basically mutilate a corpse or to torture someone. There's a massive difference between being soft and being a decent person. One thing that you probably shouldn't do to a corpse that you've just killed is chop its ear off and then keep it around your neck.
Well, yeah,
Why?
as well. Like people should be people should be disciplined too. I mean,
Yeah, it's not the aristocratic thing to do. It's savage.
No.
It's pleb.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, that's a warrior. Maybe one for a different tribe or a different people, or however you want to delineate it. But that's that's someone that's someone who is essentially you in another form, and they deserve some respect.
I just think that most of you guys are a bit on the soft side about this stuff. No, that's just me. It's just me.
Well, yeah, okay. I understand why you're saying that.
Why you don't really, but Go on, tell me why you do.
Okay, I understand you're saying that because me thinking that. Okay, Duke, the only thing that I've said is that chopping off a dead bloke's ear is wrong, and then you going, I think you're being too soft, and I was like, that's got nothing to do with being soft or not. That's trying to prevent sadistic behavior.
But the guy is dead.
Like,
Who cares?
His family. His friends.
It's not sadistic on your part.
Yeah.
Just because
Well,
it's
yeah,
not
as well,
inflicting
you
pain
kind
doesn't
of- you
change
kind
it.
of-
How can you do? Listen, I'm sorry here, like Napoleon shit character. How can you be sadistic
Yes,
to
Duke.
someone who's dead?
no, you are being
You can't.
sadistic
You
yourself.
can't
Okay,
be.
if you rape a
can't
corpse, is
be
that sadistic?
to
If you
someone who's
rape a
dead.
corpse, is that okay, Duke. If you rape
All
a
right,
corpse,
now
is
you're
that
going
sadistic
into
or
the
not?
realms of fantasy. All right.
No, I'm trying to draw an analogy here.
Who's fantasy? Hang
Is
on.
raping a corpse sadistic or not? Okay, we should. Okay, right. Okay, just a yes or no. Is raping a corpse sadistic or not?
I don't understand how anyone would ever do that because that's totally disgusting.
Well, no, it's not whether or not somebody would do that. It's whether or not
Okay,
that is sadistic.
but I
or
can
not.
understand someone chopping off a dead enemy's ear. I can't understand
Okay.
someone raping a corpse.
Did
Yeah, okay.
did Achilles gladly cut off the ears of Hector and wear them as a necklace to the end of the book?
Did he? Yeah. Well, he
Have it the
treated
foggiest.
he
Well,
treated he treated Achilles really badly.
Okay, Hector, yeah, but that
Hector, I
he
beg your
regretted that though later. It ate away at him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
but
was a point against his character.
only when Hector's father came and spoke to it.
Yeah.
But the corpse is dead, Duke, so why not? Yeah, true. Yeah,
No,
but-
I'm sorry. Look, you are not right. Napoleon Shitkicker or whatever your name is
Right.
this time. Like raping a corpse is a disgusting act, but like chopping off someone's ear is kind of just like a trophy thing. And Western warriors have done that for well over 1,000 years, and you're saying we should stop now, are you? Because we're
in this
we're
day and age,
liberal,
that
we're
isn't-
liberal and left wing now.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Duke. I'm going to give you a series of statements, and I want you to tell me as to whether or not they sound bad or good based on any level. Okay, right.
Go for
Here's
it.
the first one, and there's going to be hardly any context at all to this. Chopping a bloke's head off, is that when he's a corpse? Does that sound like a good or a bad thing?
Good.
Just based on no context at all, other than he's dead.
You told
that's
me
a
there
good
was no
thing.
context. I just said, yeah, good.
It's a trick. Okay, right. Okay, maybe that was probably the wrong line of questioning to go down. The 21st century compared to what, the 15th century, we're trying to evolve into a state of sensibility.
We're
and not
vastly
having
worse now than the 15th century.
Okay,
vastly
yeah,
worse.
2 world wars, and we're no closer to peace. But the thing is, we're
vastly more violent and vile.
Okay, I would agree that we're probably more violent, etc., etc. But the thing is,
Okay, so you've lost your first two. You've lost your first two. Carry on.
I've said this like twice. We're trying to approach an age of sensibility and civility because war has changed so much that
Designed by
war
who
has
or
changed.
what? Designed by who or what?
Joe, okay, Duke, which Western country nowadays is okay with people mutilating the corpses of their enemies?
Oh.
People get banned from
any
militaries because of their extreme
any
political opinion.
any Eastern European country you care to name?
Well,
Hang on,
okay, but
hang
I'm
on. Is
talking specifically about the West.
Napoleon's topic going to sustain us for like till like the 2 hour mark? It
Yeah,
seems
No,
like
no,
that.
I
No,
really
it's
want to
no,
move
it
on because
absolutely
we're going in
isn't.
circles.
It isn't, but
Okay,
I'm
we're
listening.
trying-
I'm going
we're
to
going in
answer his
circles.
question.
We like conclude this argument if you don't
Yes,
mind. gentlemen.
let's
Yeah.
just move on.
Let's just move on. Let's just state that
So
we're all
you've
wrong.
given up. You've given up here, Napoleon. Shit, you. I just want to be
yes,
sure because I answered all your questions, but
Yeah,
not
no,
in the way
Jake,
you
I
wanted
completely
me to.
understand that. Okay, no, we've made this discussion as interesting and as extensive as possible. I don't think we're going to get
But you
somewhere
tried
because now I'm
to
trying to
put
use.
us.
I'm trying. I
You
tried to make
put
analogies
us,
again and again to help you understand what I'm trying to say, but you're still refusing
which
to
I
understand.
won't agree because no, I understand them. I just don't agree with them because all of your
Okay, that's
analogies are about the United Nations and bollocks like that.
But
And I don't agree with the United Nations and any bollocks like that. I just don't.
shall we just move on? Shall we just?
Yes, I think we should.
Yeah,
move on?
just surrender, mate. Go for it.
Ah. Okay, I completely surrender to Duke and his.
Well, I
humorous
hope so.
brain.
I hope so because honestly, mate, like what you were talking about was like you're talking about the United Nations and bollocks like the United Nations. I don't give two shits about the United Nations.
Officers were
Which
being
is-
civil to each other since far before the United Nations ever existed. It's not about applying a top-down set of rules. It's about holding yourself to a higher standard.
Okay, so General
That's Goldilocks.
Kitchener, after the Battle of Omdurman, in which he destroyed the maddest forces in the Sudan, did not want to make the Mahdi skull into a drinking cup. Is that correct, or am I lying?
That is correct. No, wait, no. I saw this in the server the other. No, not the other day. The other. I'm gonna say that that's a lie.
Rupert August, you're a historian. Is it not correct? Okay, well, I know it's correct because he did. So there we go. But he wanted to make the Mahdi skull into a drinking cup, and I kind of understand that. I'd like to me that made sense.
That's the second time in 200 years Napoleon has surrendered to the Iron Duke. That's quite funny.
Oh, come on.
That's pretty
It's
cool.
not fair. I'm a mere amateur compared to the real Island Duke. And Napoleon shitkicker is not quite Napoleon. But anyway, but listen, honestly, General Kitchener, after the Battle of Omdurman, where he destroyed the maddest army, which was one of the worst armies Africa had ever seen. It's a big, enormous slave-taking army. He did want to make the Mahdi skull into a drinking cup. And I don't think he was wrong. But he was an old-style Brit and not a new-style Brit, you know. And I'm an old-style Brit, in case you haven't noticed. So there we go.
Yes, I have noticed.
Yeah, I am. I'm nothing like a modern British person at all. Don't pretend to be, don't want to be. And actually, I think if Britain's going to save itself, it needs more not modern Brits, more old-fashioned Brits who think that Britain's the greatest countries in the world and like what we do is good and fuck everybody else for the most part. That is my honest opinion. Anyway, okay. Anyone else?
Well, that was anticlimactic, wasn't it?
I think so. I thought I did quite well, Limbo. Okay. If you say so.
Shall we have a look at the comments? See if there's anything
well,
interesting in there.
The comments are just shitting on the stream in general. So, well,
That's actually not true. Most of our comments are reasonably pro. But what I was saying is like Limbo.
yes.
Like you come from a culture where like it's a big time warrior culture, yeah.
Oh yeah, Nepal.
Yeah. So you would kind of understand this story of like taking trophies from your enemy is kind of something that happens in war.
No, that is true, especially in this tribal caste system, Nepal. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Rupert August, like you're a historian, obviously, like taking trophies in European warfare was a long time ago, but it was definitely a thing until, I don't know, probably certainly medieval times, yeah?
Somewhat. It depends. It depends on who's fighting who and how personal it is. I'm not in favor of turning war into total war or personalized war is part of total war. Really, it's not like the mobilization of all emotion against the enemy personally and viscerally, and I think that just creates bad outcomes for everyone involved, and it's aesthetically disgusting as well. So that's my position on it.
Duke, are you trying to relitigate this argument by asking these questions?
No, absolutely not. I'm trying to spread our argument.
Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the other side of the pond. I wanted to talk about Eric Zemmour, so let's talk about that.
Okay, go on.
Yes, Eric Zemmour. So
who is Eric Zemmour, by the way?
Eric Zemmour. So he was this journalist, pundit. He's a bit like Piers Morgan, but just think of him French and not of a dickhead, to be honest. Eric Zemmour. He's let's just say the media's outcast him as this Trump of France, but I see when.
Yeah, no, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, and when we look at his politics, Eric Zemmour, I do think it's much better than Trump. It's not this American-style conservatism, but there's this main dilemma, especially in the Catholic front, the Catholic right traditionalist groups, is that Eric Zemmour is an Algerian Jew. So, in one hand you've got Eric Zemmour, and the other hand you've got Marine Le Pen. Marine Le Pen is a Catholic, of course. However, she's somewhat of a neoconservative globalist, and I'm not going to support that. However, Eric Zemmour, he truly cares for France. He's a strong character, and he has family values, and he's a traditionalist. If you want to compare him to Marine Le Pen, so what's your takes? Who would you support in this situation?
I'm very sorry. Sorry, I have to go, but I'll see you guys when I do. So thank you for having me on, Duke. I'll see you all later.
You're most welcome, mate. Go on.
No, yeah, Zemmour is much based than Piers Morgan. Yeah, no, it's just your baguette choice. Yeah, a neocon woman or a Jew. But you see, when you
Adam, what do you think about Zemmour? Yeah. Hang on, maybe Adam ain't there.
I don't know. So Le Pen is a neoconservative globalist, is because she's backtracked on all of her ideas.
She's a bit like hang on, Limbo. Le Pen is a lefty for the most part.
Oh, she is for the most part. No, she's changed multiple of her views on the European Union, nationalism, and on immigration. She's changed most of the views on that to pander to this centre-right view. While Zemmour, he's always stood firm, even though he's Algerian.
Yeah,
Jew.
listen, I'm not against him more. I just look. I hear the bad things I hear about him are that he's there to divide the vote against Le Pen, and like I'm not a big fan of Le Pen. Le Pen's okay, but like she's a very lefty person in most respects, except mass immigration.
Well, she's not really that based on mass immigration either, though.
No,
She's
she's not. No.
softened quite a lot, whereas Zemmour's
Yeah.
kind of taken up her old position.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Armin. That was kind of what I wanted you to give your opinion on. What's your opinion on Zemmour?
He probably won't be able to achieve anything if he wins, because the French civil service is absolutely enormous. He's got so much chaff to cut through. But I hope he wins.
But if
One way
he
or the other.
does, if he does, I would ask you two things, Armin. A, does that make France in a better position than Britain? And B, do we have anyone close to him in Britain?
Well, there was a British banker that's actually taken time off, taken a sabbatical to go and help with Zemmour's campaign. But other than that, no, not really.
No.
I mean, I've been
Interesting.
looking at moving to France a couple of years ago, and I ended up putting it off. And that might, I mean, if he wins, that might reinvigorate my decision.
Yeah, fair enough. Rupert, have you got anything to say on Zemmour?
Yeah, the danger with Zemmour that I see is that he's exactly one of these kinds of well, he's a self-described Bonapartist, which kind of puts him in the camp of some of these people that I was talking about earlier.
Bonaparte.
Yeah. So the issue is potentially that he is one of these figures that is going to talk a tough game on restoring Frenchness, but I don't necessarily know that he's been entirely clear on what that means. So if this turns into another reassertion of Republican values, but with an iron fist, then where are you at the end of that ultimately?
I don't. I
Yeah,
think
he
in
does
the
seem to be.
rally speech, he talked about what this Frenchness was. He was talking about the individual liberty of a person. Then he was banging on about the right of the sovereign nation and its identity against Islam in his first campaign speech. It was. So, there's some
this is the
positivity
issue.
to it, of course.
It's possible that you get something good out of it, but I also see it as very possible that he will just sort of emulate Napoleon in that sense of just being very aggressive about reasserting secular French values, which I don't think is what France really needs.
If I was a Frenchman, I have to say, God forbid that I was ever a Frenchman, but if I was, I'd kind of probably be a Bonapartist, I think. If I was a Frenchman, for God's sake, not ever.
Duke exposed? Question mark.
No, I mean, if I was a Frenchman, obviously I'm not. I mean, like, of all the people I wouldn't be a part of, the French would probably be number one because of all the bad things they've introduced into the world, including communism. But, I mean,
I mean,
we live in a world where we can sit on our computers and watch Americans every single day talking about eternal Anglos, and the British Empire was the start of globalism. And like anyone who is dumb enough to believe that, I just don't even know what to say to you, to be honest.
Zemmour. I mean, a lot of people are saying that Zemmour, like, focused on culture. I think that's my hope is that's tactical, but he does even in his sort of big opening speech, sort of directly sort of evoke the idea of the Great Replacement.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I haven't read it, but I'm pretty sure from what, because I mean I did look into him for a bit when it was first rumored that he was going to run. I kind of looked, and he's written a few books, and apparently some of them do go into stuff on race and immigration and other sort of big issues like that. So I don't know. Maybe this stuff will come out more as his campaign progresses, or maybe he'll just keep it under the rug the whole way through. But
I don't know. It's like, to me, there's two issues. Well, actually, there's more than two issues, but the two big issues are you have to get your own native people's birth rates up above 1.5, because unless you do, you're just getting, your population is getting smaller and smaller all the time. But
2.1 is replacement.
yeah, and if you have a large immigrant population, which generally speaking is going to breed faster, you really have to get rid of some of them too. And like that second thing is what almost no one will address. So I don't know. I mean, you guys can tell me what you think, but I think that second thing is that no one will address is what has to happen.
Well, first off, very quickly, since you brought up about the Eternal Anglo, 555 says, what happened to that Faust character? He was very anti-Anglo. As far as I'm aware, he's going on Millennial this year. But
yeah, Faust is on Millennial, and Faust is very welcome to come back on my channel, and I'll talk to him again. Like I asked Faust to come on my channel. He didn't ask to come on mine. So
you should set up a separate stream called Schizo Corner or something for him.
Nah, listen, I like Faust. I think he's a good guy. I think he has actually pretty good sense of humor. But he was a bit pissed when he came on.
Faust was de-eared by Poor guy.
No, I would never do that. So
no, you turned him into a leather wallet. We know what happened.
Yeah.
Not if he was alive. The only people I've ever chopped the ears off are dead. I actually did know a bloke in Southwest Africa who chopped the ears off his enemies.
Oh god. Okay. Anyway, let's get off that.
No, I actually did.
Yeah, no, we're sure it's true, but yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on before we get flagged up.
Now we won't get flagged for this. It was wartime. But I knew a guy who did this, but like he was an African boy, and the ears he had were African ears, and I didn't give a shit, frankly. You know, it's like, you know,
it's all coming out now.
What were we saying before this? We were talking about Zemmour, and then we talked about
millennial woes seems to have totally escaped all the problems he had last year, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Millennial. I mean, there's a lot about Millennial woes that irritates me, but Millennial's still pretty good. So
yeah, that's Admin. That's entirely my view. I like Millennial Yule, but I don't really like Millennial
Yule.
Yeah, Brian Borrow said, "Where can I tune into Millennial?" He's got an Odyssey channel now. It will be.
Yeah, it's Odyssey. Yeah, it is Odyssey.
I think going back to Zemmour, on soft power, I do think Zemmour does have a chance with this because he has the backing with all the establishment church clergymen. He's got the backing of the traditionalists, especially the monarchists, and he's got the backing of the SSPX, the traditional French fraternal groups. So I do think if you want to look at soft power, if you want to look at support from the right and how everyone on the right in France is gathering to Zemmour, I think this will be a tough battle for Macron and Le Pen, of course.
Well, hopefully for Macron.
I mean, one of the things we noticed with like Trump, I mean, obviously, most people on the right end now are like, yeah, he was a disappointment. But if you look at Trump's campaign, he didn't really. He came across as very secular, and I mean, him as an individual, I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah, he was.
But even after he got in, he still then sort of appealed to the religious elements in a way that he didn't during his campaigning. So I think that's just part of shrewd campaigning. I think even if he kind of plays up as being a little bit too secular and a little bit too Republican, I think some of that will wash away if he gets in.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope so.
Wonder if the British Army ranks are as right wing as a lot of them back in the French Army seems to be. I think there was this parliamentary committee hearing from this military officer on recruits, and he said it was a bit of banter over it. That sounds pretty lenient to the current situation. So,
truthfully, the British Army is almost totally non-political, except for these.
Very much doubt that.
No, hang on. Except for the senior ranks, who are totally global.
no, I've met some of the senior rank officers. Some of them, to say the least, and they seem pretty. They seem pretty adamant of patriotism and.
Hang on, Limbu. When I'm talking about senior ranks, I'm talking about like major generals and above.
Oh no, major generals. I think, not to dox myself, but I've certainly met some of them. Yeah,
I'm sure you would have, but
yeah,
I just think major generals and above in the modern British Army not trustworthy in the slightest degree.
I think armies are really hard to pause, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, look. If Alexander Johnson wanted to use the British Armed Forces against the actual British people, he could well come unstuck, not because of the major generals or the admirals or the air marshals, but because the ordinary British soldiers, and I include up to ranks like majors in the army, wouldn't do it. Like if Alexander Johnson's government told people like a major to open fire with his company on real British people, I think that major would turn around and say, most of my men won't do that. And they'd be stupid to push it. So from that point of view, I totally agree with Limbo. But I don't think it's people like major generals and field marshals and generals. I think it's the regimental officers and ordinary other ranks who just won't do that. Like my son's serving in the Royal Navy. He's an officer in the Royal Navy. And were someone to say to him, you have to open fire on those British women and children, he would just say, get stuffed. Without any doubt whatsoever, he would just say, get stuffed. No,
well, I mean, that's how Chile started, though, wasn't it? Chile. And it's, I mean, that's kind of how the left always screws themselves over. I think they've kind of learnt the hard way that. I think someone else made this point recently, that they've kind of learnt the hard way that they need to sort of pause all the institutions, including the army.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the big problems with the army is it's the base you're recruiting from. I know they try to do like big diversity drives, and if you look at like the American military, there's a lot of
and the British military.
Yeah, the British military just as worse. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is that those people don't go into sort of those people go for very specific roles, and it's not in a majority of cases the sort of frontline fighting roles. So even though they can still kind of, it doesn't end up getting paused in a sort of conventional sense. You end up with this situation where like large sections of your ground-based fighting forces are quite right-leaning and of the people, and all the other echelons of the army, the logistics and all that sort of stuff ends up being sort of for the regime.
All the admin people particularly.
Yeah, and that's kind of American, to be honest.
Yeah.
some Lemonoid 22 in the chat says the British Army opened fire on citizens in Northern Ireland. No, they didn't. The British Army only opened fire on people in Northern Ireland who were firing at them, which was the Provisional IRA. They never opened fire on British citizens in Northern Ireland, and the Provisional IRA always said they were not British citizens, unless it sued them, of course.
I believe early on the Scots that were placed in Northern Ireland were a little bit more rough with the Catholics and more leaning on the side of the Protestants.
First, yeah.
All right, I'm going to have.
That would be the danger, is that you would find the units that from your commander perspective, you would find the units who are going to be less sympathetic to whichever issue is you're trying to crack down on, or basically people who aren't sympathetic, soldiers who aren't sympathetic to the people who they're trying to shoot, and then and that's where you'll get compliance.
I have to answer Lee Ham here. He says your normal squaddy is too thick to pause. Now I used to be a squaddy, mate.
Yeah, it's the bell curve though, isn't it? It's the guy on the far left is like, oh, love me mum, love me country, love me pub, and then the guy on the right is like community, family, and nation above all. It's two sides of the same coin.
All right. Well,
are you saying you couldn't have sort of 90 or sub 100 IQ people on your side who are loyal to you, who fight for you?
Honestly, Alman, below 100 IQ, you wouldn't want them.
Probably not, but you get below like 95.
You get one or two. You do get one or two who get given jobs that suit them. But you wouldn't want many, because in a modern infantry attack or defense situation, you have to think, and you have to think quick.
Yeah, but midwits are overrated, so.
Yeah, but even so, Lee Ham there, your normal squaddy is too thick to pause. Nah, that's not true. Like, I have known some of the most intelligent men I've known in my life have been former British soldiers. So I'm not going to agree with that, because it's not true.
Look, I mean, I used to put a big weight on the idea of intellectual curiosity, and I just now think it's actually the opposite. I think intellectual incuriosity is quite a valuable thing.
To some people, yes, it is. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Having people who just think, well, they know what they know, and they know what's good for them, and that's what they're sticking to. That can be quite useful, even within yourself.
I don't disagree with any of that. You're right. For sure. Cardamon says IQ of 80 or below would be unemployable in the army. I don't know if he'd be unemployable, but he wouldn't be anything that could do anything. Like, he might be someone who would be in the kitchens. Maybe.
Well, definitely in the US Army. Between below or lower bounds, they won't.
Morons, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, look, the other thing that really gets my go, and like, my son is an officer in the Royal Navy, and he has told me this many times, and he has conversations with other officers and also senior non-commissioned officers in the Royal Navy. And everyone is worried about how many women are serving on Royal Navy warships, because they think that even if they get slightly damaged, those ships will be out of commission. And in the Army, that's even more true. And I think largely it's probably true in the RAF, because we keep pretending that women are men and women are not men. And I would say that's a bigger issue, because there's always been like some low IQ people who go to join the armed forces, and the armed forces can find roles for those people that are not in the front line. But like women cannot fight battles. Like if you think women can fight battles, then remember your last girlfriend when there was a big fight in a pub or a club that you were in, and watch what she did, which I guarantee to you is back somewhere into the corner or stand behind you if she trusted you. And that is as far as any woman will go. But somehow or other, feminists will tell you that one and the same time, any bloke, no matter how weedy, can beat the fuck out of a woman. But on the other hand, they ought to be in the armed forces, where they can get a bayonet in the guts or a grenade launcher that, like, you know, makes the top part of them spray around, or a bullet in the forehead. But this is feminism for you in 21st century world now. They're just lying. Women are not suitable in frontline formations in the armed forces. They're just not. They won't. Like, I'll give you a couple of examples. Like, a man will see a bloke who will go across this bullet-studded area, and this bloke will say, come on, boys. And because you like him, or he's your mate, or he's your officer and they're a good officer who you want to follow, you will go and follow him. No woman will ever do that. None. Ever will do that. Not one chance in a million.
Okay.
But we constantly lie to each other, and we turn around and say, oh yeah, women are the same as men. No, they're not.
I don't think most people on the street believe that, though. Not even remotely.
Yeah, you are absolutely right, Ammon. Most people don't believe that at all. But we are told it by the mainstream media and by the armed forces leadership and everybody else, even though it's told shit. The same as, like, if you're retreating, say you haven't won your attack or whatever, and you're retreating with 4 wounded people. Men will do 200 times more effort to save some bloody chick than they will some bloke. They just will. It's the way we're made. In military terms, women and men are not at all the same, not even slightly.
No, I think that's a whole agreeable debate. We're not
Well,
saying.
look, Limbo. You're the son of a Gurkha officer, okay? There's no sign whatsoever of the Gurkhas importing like 50% women, as far as I can work out.
No, because women can't do the job. It's that simple.
Thank you very much. That's exactly the point I was trying to make. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Ash and Duke said above, just look at the contrast between Chinese, Russian, and UK, US military ads to see how utterly pos the West is. Well, I mean, that's another issue that's sort of facing the West. Not necessarily a terrible thing at the moment, but when they first started bringing the whole diversity advertising thing, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, like when it started getting really bad and very obvious. I remember saying on a pretty normie political Facebook group that that was going to adversely affect recruitment. And I mean, they're sort of the leftists in there, and I think this reflects, the people that fill these recruitment departments and these HR departments, even in the military, were basically arguing that that those people would need to feel included, and then they'll come and join, and the army doesn't have to be reliant on like white boys anymore. And of course that isn't true. They just now
Yeah.
those white boys just don't sign up, you know, and those minorities still don't, except for, you know, a few sort of very warrior caste groups. But on the
See,
whole,
the point is with these minority groups is that they inherently hate the military. They see the military as some sort of right-wing extremist threat. I mean, by pandering to it, especially as a government, you're just digging yourself a bigger hole, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, if I was I mean, I'm not, because that would be gay and heretical. But if I was a Muslim, um, I wouldn't want to join the British Army even if I was born in the UK. Well, I might think about it, but it probably wouldn't last very long, you know.
Yeah.
In the same way
But
that I probably wouldn't view the British Army from my perspective very favourably now if it was just going around putting down Christian nations everywhere for the sake of it, for oil or whatever.
which it ain't. But yeah, I mean,
No,
look,
it isn't. But you know,
yeah. But I mean, the Royal Navy, for example, which is the most important service to Britain because we happen to be an island nation that totally depends on world trade, more than 90% of which goes by sea, is constantly making the Royal Navy more and more full of women. Like you can see, there were videos made of the British Carrier Task Force coming home very recently, and like you can even see LGBTQ flags and Irish flags being flown to welcome these people home. Now, I'm not against the Irish people. I mean, my mum was Irish, born in the Irish Republic, but and you guys will know that we have mates who are Southern Irishmen who are supportive of Southern Ireland rejoining the United Kingdom, which I totally support. But why on earth would the Royal Navy make a short 5-minute video that included Irish flags and LGBT, much worse, LGBTQ flags? For fuck's sake. I'm sorry. Like, why would you let your son go and join that organization?
Mm.
I just don't. Like, all right, my son's in it, but like he joined as an officer and he not as another rank. But why would you let your son go and join an organization that supported LGBTQ flags with all the black bits on the side? You know, I mean, fuck that. I'm sorry, no. You know, I've had issues with people saying, "Oh, we should absolutely dox ourselves in terms of like our faces and names and all the rest of it." And the reason I won't do that is my son is serving as an officer in the Royal Navy, and if I did that because he looks exactly like me, he would get fucked. He would absolutely get fucked up the arse by the Royal Navy. And any dream he had of running a warship or anything would be gone.
Mm.
And I ain't going to do that because he's my son.
Well,
So,
I mean, that's definitely going to happen if you keep talking about cutting people's ears off. But yeah.
no, not true. Not true. Strangely enough, that's a totally different story. But yeah. Strangely enough, that's a totally different story. But the military is weird, and unless you know it, it really is weird. But yeah, there were quite a lot of officers who didn't want that guy who'd been cutting off Argentine ears to lose his medal. But also that was like 50 years ago, so 40 years ago, so
Mm.
I don't know. I just think like how our whole society at the moment is like schizophrenic and doesn't have the least idea of what he really wants to do.
Well, I think the higher ups know what they want to do.
Yeah, which is destroy the rest of us.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
At the very least, as an emergent property of what they're doing. But yeah.
Yes.
All right, all right, guys. We're going to go for about another 10 minutes. Final subjects. Let's start with that one. Because you got a final subject, mate?
No, I haven't. We went through mine earlier. I don't know what else we could cover. No, I've got nothing.
No. Rupert August, do you have a final thing you would like to cover before we close?
The only final thing was something that I saw. It was quite interesting from, what's her name? The Prime Minister of New Zealand. Ardern, is it?
Ardern.
The horse-faced feminist.
Yes.
Who used to work for Tony Blair.
Yeah. Apparently, they've recently set up a fund for combating, like for journalists who are combating misinformation. So isn't that very noble of them?
Noble.
Wow.
Yeah, I think New Zealand at the moment is looking like a test bed for all the dystopian ideas that they feel like just throwing at the Anglo world and see how it pans out there.
Yeah, I used to really love New Zealand, but it's really taken a turn for the worst in terms of sort of governmental policy and the rest of it. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Because you just get into this constant thing over and over again where you just have to remind them, well, who's checking the fact checkers, who's watching the watchers, but it really doesn't matter because they don't care.
Well, Jacinda Ardern is a horse-faced left-wing feminist. Used to work for Tony Blair. I mean, So what do you expect her to do, really?
Maybe she should come out and be honest about it, and then we can set up the battle lines and go at it properly.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is part of the thing. Is I guess if they carry on the current track, then we'll see how far they could conceivably push it before somebody starts saying no. Because hypothetically, we've said that there would come a time where the army, for example, would say no. So let's see if New Zealand ever hits that point.
But however, hang on, guys. The New Zealand army just sacked well over 1,000 soldiers because they wouldn't do what Jacinda Ardern wanted. And 1,000 soldiers in the New Zealand army is like, I don't know, probably something
That's
like
the whole army, isn't it?
No, it ain't. It's about, but it is about 20% of the New Zealand army. They just sacked all of them because they said they wouldn't do it. And every good New Zealander has pointed out that they were the best 1,000 soldiers in the New Zealand army. Some of them Maoris, by the way, not all Euros. So, yeah, that's a fact. That's just happened.
Well, I mean, one of the big differences between like the Weimar Republic going the way it did and why we don't seem to have that luxury, if you can call it a luxury, is that Germany was obviously full of like World War I vets who were upset at the way things were going, and we don't really have that. So
they also had the moneyed interest of the landowners and the Junkers, large sections of industry, the judiciary, like all of the legacy institutions from the imperial government that didn't really like how the political scene was sliding.
Yeah, as all of that has been completely rotted away in the West now, over sort of the long play.
Been so long, and it's been so long that like the only veterans we have now are from Afghanistan and maybe a few from Iraq.
There aren't really that many of them. Not really.
Relatively speaking, yeah, you're right. So if you're going to destroy your society, this is when you do it, because we have a relatively, as you say, tiny number of veterans from Afghan and Iraq and nobody else. Same thing in Australia. I mean, you know, Australia, actually it's worse in Australia because Australia only used special forces in Afghan and Iraq. So the modern Australian veterans are absolutely infinitesimally small number, you know. Canada are a bit more, but less than Britain. And yeah, I think you're right.
That was one of the driving forces in France as well. Is it's worth remembering during the interwar years. You know, they had a very much a thriving far right, I guess you could say, sort of movement, a set of movements going on, and an umbrella of movements, you might say. But obviously, they didn't quite have the same success that they did in Germany. So this was kind of a factor everywhere, and the fact that nowhere in the modern world seems to have this stock of actual blooded veterans is probably not going to create the same outcomes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree at all, Rupert. I just think look, yeah, I don't know if you guys watched the latest video I put up on the Discord, which was Boris doesn't want you to have a car. Did you guys, any of you guys watch that?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Well, it's basically, it's this guy who is he used to be a UKIP guy, but these days he is increasingly anti-lockdown, vaccine passports, and Boris's watermelon green policies. And he was a Royal Navy Falklands War veteran. But he's just put up this stream that basically Boris does not want ordinary people to have a car in the future. Now, I knew this like ages ago because it was obvious. But you will get some wanks who are going to pretend like, nah, it's not true.
I kind of hope it is, actually. It's probably the only base thing Boris has ever said.
So you want to ride a bike or have a car share? Is that right?
Well, just ban cars. I'm Hitchens pilled on this.
Yeah, I'm not. Listen, if you just ban cars, I can see your point. They ain't going to do that. They're just going to make cars illegal for most of us plebs.
Yeah.
That's my point. I'm not against banning cars if you really did. Never going to happen.
Are we talking about Jeff Taylor here? Or...
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Limbo. Jeff Taylor is the bloke I'm talking about, who was he was a Royal Navy sailor during the Falklands War, and so he's a veteran of the Falklands War. Not an idiot by any means, but he used to be a very soft UKIP kind of guy. But these days he's more and more looking at what's happening to us today. And it is increasingly live in the pod, eat the bugs, own nothing and be happy. It just is. I mean, I don't know what to say to you blokes if you can't see this is what they're going for now. And it is to make everyone in the Western world vastly poorer in terms of lifestyle than they are today. To make like kind of the third world catch up with the first world, and then they can all, millions upon millions and millions of them, just move into where we are now. And I just think that's the whole thing.
Well, it'd probably be a bit harder if they don't have any cars. But yeah.
Yeah, but they don't need cars. You listen, Alman. I know you're joking, but you know, you have seen the big convoys from South America to North America that I've seen, and I don't know, like, how many fucking dinghies across the channel do you need?
Well, part of the convoy thing though is contingent on what they can actually get when they get to the other side. So if they're making everybody poorer, then that doesn't actually help them ultimately. Like how immigration from Mexico has, you know, slowed, if not reversed, in a lot of cases, just because the standard of living in Mexico and the wages and whatever has reached parity, and people ultimately would rather be in their home country all the time, if all other things being equal.
Are you suggesting that, like, there are not hundreds of thousands of people from Central and South America still trying to get into the USA?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if they do deliberately tank the living standards,
If
of
they
everybody-
did, yeah, okay.
well, that was the point that you were making, was that they're trying to ruin the living standards of the West so that they can bring everybody from the third world into the first. But that wouldn't really work so well if people don't actually want to be there, because there's nothing to gain.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but, like, even if you quite heavily tank the living standards of people in the Western world, that's still going to be vastly higher than Central America or Africa or very large parts of Asia, isn't it?
Well, the living standards in those places is increasing as well, so you don't have to tank it that much, and especially because a lot of investment is based on future growth prospects. So you know, a lot of hiring is done on the basis of investment. So there would not be the economic opportunity there in the places where there would, in places that are experiencing, you know, negative growth.
Okay, so what would your thoughts be on why are all these people moving to the West?
Because there's still things for them to gain with minimal effort.
Yeah,
and because they're encouraged to do so.
Yeah, I do agree on both those points. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I don't disagree on. All right, guys, we're gonna cut this. Our next stream, gentlemen and ladies in the chat, will be a festive Christmas stream, which is going to have carols and poems and all sorts of shit that I never do normally on my streams. Sorry, someone's laughing. Who's
I
laughing?
was just laughing. It's like, oh, shit you don't do.
Well, it is just shit I don't do. But it will have.
Okay, hang on. I've got to go right now. Okay, talk to you later.
Go all, yeah, it will have carols and poems and stories and all sorts of stuff that I never do on my streams. That will be next week's stream, which will be our Christmas stream. So, yeah, come and look at us for that. What else? Let me think. Oh, yeah, I'm still working on my Jonathan Bowden stream. Trying to get Eddie Butler to realize where my bloody email address is.
Which one's Eddie Butler again?
He was one of Jonathan Bowden's best friends.
Oh, okay, I see.
Back in the day. I love Jonathan Bowden, by the way. I really do. He was like so damn cool. But anyway, there's that. And there's also, let me think. On Boxing Day, probably, I will release a stream with me and Adam and Sergio talking about what the fuck has gone on over the last year. So that's the other thing we're going to do. And on that note, I will play us out with some music. Oh dear. Oh, God's sake.
Are you trying to find the tune?
Yeah, hang on. I'll find it in a minute. Don't worry.
Oh, it looks like a Catholic church, a Catholic diocese in Italy has publicly apologized after its bishop told a group of children Santa Claus does not exist. Wow, another great story.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's read this guy article. Oh, it was in Sicily. Okay. I mean, he was being truthful. Yeah, the diocese and Noto, seeing the true meaning of Christmas. It wasn't because of Coca-Cola, that Protestant capitalization of Christmas.
I'm lonesome since I crossed the hill and o'er the moor and valley. Such grievous thoughts my heart do fill since parting with my Sally. I seek no more the fine or gay, for each does but remind me how swift the hours did pass away with the girl I left behind me. Oh, ne'er shall I forget the night the stars were bright above me, and gently lent their silvery light when first she vowed to love me. But now I'm bound to brighten camp, kind heaven, then pray guide me, and send me safely back again to the girl I left behind me.
Okay, guys. There we go. That's that. Good night. Go on.
Good night.
Good night, all.
And never let the bastards grind you down.